Hey everyone, tonight we're stepping back in time, not to the gladiatorial arena or the bustling forum, but to a far more tranquil, yet equally vital part of Roman life. Imagine the soft rustle of leaves, the gentle murmur of water, and the sweet perfume of blossoms carried on a warm breeze. You're not in a dusty museum, but right here in the sun-drenched, exquisitely designed garden of a Roman villa. Close your eyes for a moment and really feel the warmth on your skin. Hear the distant hum of bees and picture the vibrant hues of hibiscus and oleander. This isn't some sterile archaeological dig. This is life lived simply beautifully thousands of years ago. You're about to experience the quiet luxury, the simple pleasures that made these gardens the true heart of a Roman home. Now, a quick reality check: you probably won't survive a single Roman winter without central heating, but your senses are about to be absolutely spoiled. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you. And if you're enjoying these little journeys, liking and following helps keep them coming. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself standing on a flagstone path still warm from the afternoon sun, a path that winds gently through what feels less like a cultivated space and more like a carefully curated slice of paradise. The air is thick with the scent of cypress, myrtle, and something else. Something sweet and floral that you can't quite place, but it pulls you deeper into this verdant embrace. Around you, neatly trimmed hedges define various rooms within the garden, each with its own character, its own allure. This isn't a chaotic explosion of nature. It's nature tamed, artfully arranged, a testament to the Roman love for order, even in their leisure. You can almost hear the distant chatter of a family, perhaps a mother calling to her children, or the quiet rustle of a scribe's scroll being unrolled for an afternoon of reading in a shady arbor. The sheer amount of work, the meticulous planning that went into creating such a seemingly effortless sanctuary is almost mind-boggling when you stop to think about it. Historians still argue whether the primary purpose of these intricate designs was aesthetic pleasure or practical utility, but standing here feeling the peace wash over you, it's hard to imagine it wasn't mostly about that exquisite sense of calm. You notice a small, bubbling fountain nearby, its gentle splash, a soothing counterpoint to the chirping of unseen birds. The water, clear and cool, reflects the dappled sunlight filtering through a nearby olive tree. It's a subtle touch, not a grand roaring cascade, but something intimate, inviting you to simply sit and listen. There's a quiet bench carved from stone, worn smooth by countless hands and posterior s, tucked into an alcove of fragrant bay laurel. You can almost feel the presence of past residents who sought solace here, escaping the demands of Roman life. Remember that feeling of relief when you finally kick off your sandals after a long day? Imagine that, but amplify it by 1,000, and add the aroma of fresh herbs and blooming roses. It's the kind of place where time seems to slow down, where the worries of the world, even the worries of an empire, simply melt away with each soft breath of perfumed air. It's a profound sense of connection, not just to nature, but to the people who walked these very paths millennia ago, seeking the same simple comforts we still crave today. The Romans, despite their reputation for grandeur and conquest, truly understood the art of living well, and nowhere is that more evident than in the quiet elegance of their villa gardens. As you wander deeper, you begin to grasp just how central this green oasis was to the Roman household. This wasn't merely an outdoor space tacked onto the side of a building. It was the very heartbeat of the villa, a living, breathing extension of the domestic realm. Imagine waking up each morning, not to the blare of city traffic, but to the gentle chirping of sparrows and the scent of damp earth rising from the flower beds. You'd step out of your sleeping chambers, often directly into the peristyle garden, a colonnaded courtyard that was a defining feature of many Roman villas, especially in warmer climes. This enclosed garden provided both privacy and a cool refuge from the often scorching Mediterranean sun. It was the place where children played, where tutors held lessons under the shade of a fig tree, and where the mistress of the house might oversee the day's affairs while enjoying a moment of quiet contemplation. Think of it like the ultimate multi-purpose room, but outdoors and infinitely more picturesque. You could conduct business here, entertain guests, or simply escape the pressures of the world. It's a far cry from our modern, often purely decorative front lawns that serve mostly to impress the neighbors and maybe host a rogue sprinkler head or two. The Roman garden was a functional space or deeply integrated into the daily rhythm of life. For instance, the compluvium in the atrium, which collected rainwater, often fed directly into cisterns that then supplied the garden's irrigation. This wasn't just about pretty flowers. It was about one's self-sufficiency and smart resource management. Historians still argue whether the elaborate systems of irrigation and drainage were developed purely for aesthetic purposes or out of a desperate need to control water in a climate prone to both drought and sudden heavy downpours. And speaking of functionality, you notice a small raised bed near the kitchen entrance brimming with fragrant herbs. Here the cook would pluck fresh basil for sauces, rosemary for roasting meats, and mint for refreshing drinks. This isn't just about convenience. It's about the culinary richness that fresh local ingredients brought to their diet. Imagine the flavor difference between dried imported herbs and those picked moments before use. It's like comparing a freeze-dried meal to a gourmet farm-to-table experience only centuries ago. This practical aspect of the garden meant that even the humblest villa would have some sort of cultivated space dedicated to edible plants, providing sustenance and flavor. It wasn't uncommon for villa owners to grow their own grapes for wine, olives for oil, and a variety of vegetables that formed the staple of the Roman diet. The sensory experience for us of these gardens was paramount. It wasn't just about sight, it was about scent, sound, and touch. The soft crunch of gravel underfoot, the cool touch of marble statuary, the sweet perfume of roses and honeysuckle. Every element was designed to engage the senses and create an immersive, calming environment. You might even stumble upon a small aviary, its delicate chirps adding to the natural symphony. The Romans, with all their grand engineering feats and military might, truly appreciated the quiet, everyday luxuries that made life worth living. It's a reminder that even in an age without Wi-Fi or instant entertainment, humans have always sought refuge in beauty in the embrace of nature. It makes you wonder how much our modern, always-on world truly benefits us compared to the simple, profound peace of a Roman villa garden. No screens, just the rustle of leaves and the gentle murmur of a fountain. Sounds pretty good, right? Stepping further into this tranquil realm, you begin to appreciate the sheer artistry behind its creation. This wasn't haphazard planting, it was designed for tranquility. A meticulously planned escape from the rigors of Roman urban life. Every vista, every path, every arrangement of floor and stone was carefully considered to evoke a specific feeling, peace, harmony, and a deep connection to nature, albeit nature refined. Think of it as ancient landscape architecture, but with a soul. The Romans didn't just plop plants down, they sculpted the land much like they sculpted their marble statues to create living masterpieces. You'll notice that the main axes of the garden often align with key architectural features of the villa itself, drawing the eye outwards, blurring the lines between inside and out. It's an early example of what we now call indoor-outdoor living, something modern architects still strive for, often with less grace than these ancients managed. The layout often followed a geometric precision reflecting the Roman love for order and symmetry. You might find a central basin or fountain with paths radiating outwards, or perfectly squared planting beds defined by low hedges. This wasn't just for aesthetics, it also made the garden more manageable for maintenance. Imagine trying to weed a chaotic, overgrown mess versus a neatly compartmentalized plot. It's the difference between a meticulously organized pantry and a junk drawer that's slowly eating your house. This inherent order gave the gardens a sense of calm, a visual logic that was deeply satisfying to the Roman eye. Historians still argue whether this rigid geometric planning was a purely Roman invention or if it was heavily influenced by earlier Greek or even Egyptian horticultural practices. But within this order, there was always room for organic beauty. A winding path might lead to a secluded grotto, or a cluster of wild roses might spill over a low wall, seemingly at random yet perfectly placed. It's that careful balance between control and natural abandon that makes these gardens so captivating. You might stumble upon a small secluded area, perhaps a viridarium, a miniature pleasure garden where the sounds of the villa fade completely and only the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant cooing of doves can be heard. This intimacy, this creation of private sanctuaries within the larger garden speaks volumes about the Roman appreciation for personal space and quiet contemplation. They understood the importance of carving out moments of solitude in a world that even then could be demanding and noisy. Consider the choice of plants themselves. While some were certainly chosen for their vibrant colors, many were selected for their scent, a subtle but powerful way to enhance the garden experience. The Romans had no shortage of fragrant plants: roses, violets, lilies, myrtle, and the ever-present bay laurel. Imagine a gentle breeze carrying the mixed perfumes of these blooms to you as you recline on a stone bench. It's an olfactory tapestry constantly shifting, subtly engaging your senses without overwhelming them. It's a sensory experience that's often overlooked in modern garden design, where visual impact sometimes takes precedence over the more ephemeral joys of scent. The Romans, however, understood that a truly delightful garden engaged all the senses, providing not just a feast for the eyes, but a balm for the soul. They truly knew how to build a space that was both beautiful and utterly, profoundly relaxing. It's almost like they invented ASMR thousands of years ago, but with actual nature instead of someone whispering into a microphone about soap cutting. Now let's talk about the unsung hero of the Roman villa garden: water. It wasn't just a practical necessity for keeping plants alive. It was a fundamental element of the design, integrated in ways that were both ingenious and deeply artistic. You'll notice immediately the ubiquitous presence of fountains or basins, and often delicate rills, miniature canals that trickled water through the garden. This wasn't just about making things wet. It was about creating a constant soothing soundtrack. Imagine the gentle splash, the subtle gurgle, the almost imperceptible drip, drip, drip. It's the original ASMR right there in your ancient garden, without any awkward whispers about cutting kinetic sand. The Romans, masters of engineering, truly understood how to harness water, transforming it from a mere utility into a dynamic living sculpture. The presence of water also had a very practical purpose in the warm Mediterranean climate. It served as a natural air conditioner, cooling the surrounding atmosphere through evaporation. You can almost feel the slight drop in temperature as you approach a bubbling fountain or a shaded pool. This wasn't just luxury, it was smart design, making the outdoor spaces far more comfortable during the scorching summer months. Think about how much energy we expend today trying to cool our homes. The Romans, with their clever use of water and strategic planting, achieved a remarkable level of comfort with far simpler means. This integration of function and form is a hallmark of Roman ingenuity. Historians still argue whether the elaborate systems of water delivery and drainage in villas were primarily for irrigation, decorative effect, or a more holistic approach to climate control. Beyond the cooling effect, water was also used to create stunning visual effects. Smooth, dark pools would reflect the surrounding architecture, and sky acting like liquid mirrors, doubling the perceived space and bringing the heavens down to earth. These reflecting pools were often shallow, allowing the bottom to be decorated with intricate mosaic patterns of fish or marine scenes, bringing a touch of the sea into the garden's tranquility. You might spot a small, almost hidden spigot designed to perpetually fill a stone bird bath, ensuring that the garden's avian residents always had a fresh drink. It's these thoughtful, often subtle details that truly elevate the Roman garden from a simple plot of land to a carefully orchestrated natural experience. The Romans even found ways to play with water, incorporating playful features into their gardens. Think of your water organs, rudimentary musical instruments powered by the flow of water producing eerie yet captivating sounds, or trick fountains, designed to surprise guests with a sudden spurt of water, a sort of ancient practical joke. It wasn't all solemn contemplation. There was room for whimsy and delight. This blend of the practical, the beautiful, and the playful demonstrates a profound understanding of how humans interact with their environment. They weren't just building gardens, they were crafting experiences, inviting you to engage with the space on multiple levels. Remember that crocodile dung sunscreen we briefly touched on? Well, the Roman approach to water was infinitely more refreshing and delightful than that. It was quite simply the lifeblood and the art of the Roman villa garden. Following the gentle gurgle, you are drawn closer to the very essence of Roman water, artistry, the fountains and nymphs. These weren't just spigots. They were often elaborate sculptural masterpieces, each telling a story, each adding a layer of myth and beauty to the garden. You might encounter a small lararium, a shrine dedicated to the household gods nestled next to a miniature waterfall cascading into a moss-rimmed basin. The sound of the falling water would have added a sense of reverence to these sacred spots, an almost divine whisper. It's a subtle reminder that for the Romans, even nature had its deities, and the garden was a place where the human and the divine could mingle in quiet harmony. Many fountains featured intricately carved figures, often mythological beings. You might see a nymph, her marble drapery appearing almost wet as water gently streams from an urn she holds, or perhaps a playful putto, a cherubic figure riding a dolphin spouting water from its mouth. These sculptures weren't just decorative, they were carefully chosen to evoke themes of fertility, abundance, and the life-giving power of water itself. Imagine the sparkle of sunlight on the wet marble, the cool spray on your face on a hot day. It's a full sensory immersion. They were the focal points, the jewels in the garden's crown, inviting you to pause, admire, and perhaps even offer a small prayer to the gods of spring and streams. Historians still argue whether the placement of specific mythological figures was purely artistic or if it held deeper, more standardized religious or allegorical meanings for the Roman viewer. Beyond the grander figures, there were also simpler, elegant spouts, shaped like animal heads. A lion, a panther, or even a grotesque theatrical mask from which water flowed continuously into a basin below. These designs, though less elaborate, possessed a charm and character all their own, hinting at the Roman fascination with both the natural and the theatrical. Sometimes a series of smaller basins would be arranged in descending tiers, creating a cascade of water that burbled and splashed its way down, culminating in a larger pool at the bottom. It's the kind of feature that would mesmerize a child for hours, and frankly, it's pretty captivating, even for an adult. The technology behind these fountains, while seemingly simple to our modern eyes, was quite sophisticated for its time. The Romans utilized wasame lead pipes to channel water from elevated reservoirs or aqueducts directly to the garden, often relying on gravity for the pressure. This allowed for various jets and sprays, some designed to shoot water high into the air, creating shimmering arcs that caught the sunlight. It speaks to their engineering prowess that such delicate and complex water features could be sustained in a private villa year after year. It reminds you that innovation isn't just about massive structures, it's also about enhancing daily life with beauty and ingenuity. And unlike your constantly leaking garden hose, these Roman systems, when well maintained, were remarkably durable. You certainly wouldn't find a Roman blaming the mystery drip on faulty plastic fittings. Moving deeper into the heart of the Roman villa garden, you inevitably find yourself drawn to the shaded peristyles. This wasn't just a walkway, it was the very essence of sophisticated outdoor living, a cool covered colonnade that encircled the central garden, offering a seamless transition between the indoor rooms and the vibrant greenery outside. Imagine walking along the sun-drenched garden on one side and the cool frescoed walls of the villa on the other, each column casting long, elegant shadows that dance with the movement of the day. It's the architectural equivalent of a perfect umbrella, but instead of just shielding you, it frames the beauty it protects. These peristyles were often paved with intricate mosaics depicting scenes of nature, mythological figures, or geometric patterns, adding another layer of artistic detail underfoot. You might see a mosaic of playful fish swimming in a blue sea, or a lion stalking its prey through a lush forest, bringing the wildness of the outside world into this refined space. And notice the columns themselves. Some might be plain, others fluted, still others perhaps painted in vibrant colors that have long since faded, but which would have originally added a lively splash to the shaded passage. The sheer craftsmanship involved in laying these mosaics and carving these columns speaks volumes about the resources and artistic sensibilities of the villa's owner. Historians still argue whether the predominant function of the peristyle was primarily for circulation, for displaying art, or for providing a protected space for outdoor activities, regardless of weather. The peristyle served multiple functions. It was a promenade, A place for gentle strolls and quiet conversation, protected from both the harsh sun and sudden rain showers. It was also an extension of the living space, a place where comfortable couches and chairs might be arranged, inviting residents to recline and write letters or simply enjoy the view of the garden. Picture a Roman matron perhaps with her slaves fanning her, enjoying a cool drink while overseeing her household from the comfort of her shaded spot. It was the ultimate indoor-outdoor room, blurring the lines between structural confines and natural freedom. It truly beckoned you to slow down, to relax, and to simply be. The design of the peristyle also played a crucial role in the villa's microclimate. The colonnaded structure allowed for picking on air circulation, creating a gentle breeze that would draw cooler air from the garden inwards, effectively ventilating the surrounding rooms. This was ancient air conditioning at its finest, a testament to the Romans' understanding of passive cooling techniques. It's almost ironic how much we rely on noisy energy-guzzling machines today, when such elegant natural solutions existed millennia ago. And unlike your constantly humming HVAC system, the only sound you'd hear here would be the gentle whisper of the wind through the columns and the distant splash of a fountain. So if you're ever planning your dream home, maybe skip the massive carbon footprint and just add a glorious shaded peristyle. Your future self and the planet might thank you. From the cool embrace of the peristyle, you'd often find yourself transitioning seamlessly into the delightful practice of dining al fresco. This wasn't just a casual picnic. It was an integral part of the Roman leisure experience, a sophisticated social ritual enjoyed amidst the fragrant blooms and gentle breezes of the garden. Imagine long, low, triclinium couches. Dining couches, typically three of them arranged in a U shape, set out in a specially designed alcove or under a shaded pergola. These weren't your modern patio furniture sets. These were built for lounging for hours of leisurely eating, drinking, and conversation, often reclining on plush cushions. The setting itself was part of the feast. Picture the sunlight filtering through the leaves overhead, dappling the table with shifting patterns of light and shadow. The air, already sweet with the scent of flowers, might carry the added aroma of roasted lamb or fresh bread baking nearby. You'd be surrounded by the vibrant colors of the garden, perhaps with a small fountain bubbling gently in the background, its rhythmic splash a soothing accompaniment to the clinking of cups and the murmur of voices. It's a sensory symphony designed to elevate the simple act of eating into a truly sublime experience. Historians still argue whether the concept of convivium, the Roman dinner party, was primarily about the food, the social interaction, or the beautiful setting in which it took place. The Romans understood that presentation was key, and dining in the garden added an unparalleled level of aesthetic pleasure. Think of the fresh produce, perhaps picked just hours before, from the very garden you're sitting in. Plump figs, crisp lettuce, sun-ripened grapes. These would be arranged artfully on platters, a testament to the bounty of the land and the skill of the villa's gardeners. And it wasn't just about the food. The conversation would flow as freely as the wine, often watered down, as was the Roman custom, encouraging a long and convivial evening rather than a quick inebriation. It was a time for intellectual discussion, for sharing poetry, for political gossip, or simply for enjoying the company of friends and family. These outdoor dining areas were often equipped with their own small kitchens or serving areas, ensuring that hot dishes could be brought directly from the main villa kitchen and served fresh. Sometimes clever designs even incorporated small channels in the dining tables themselves, allowing cool water to flow beneath the serving dishes, keeping them chilled. A remarkably sophisticated touch for ancient times, far more impressive than your average ice bucket. It's a testament to the Roman dedication to comfort and luxury that they would go to such lengths for an outdoor meal. It makes you realize that while we might have air conditioning and Netflix, the Romans had a certain effortless elegance in their leisure that we often struggle to replicate. No wonder they loved their villas. Who wouldn't want to spend their evenings lingering over a meal in a setting like this, feeling the evening breeze on their skin and the peace of the garden enveloping them? It certainly beats another takeaway in front of the TV, right? As you continue your gentle stroll, you can't help but notice the myriad statues and symbolism that punctuate the Roman villa garden. These weren't simply decorative pieces casually placed wherever there was an empty spot. Each sculpture, each carefully chosen bust, held meaning, enriching the garden's narrative and reflecting the intellectual and artistic tastes of the villa's owner. You might stumble upon a serene marble representation of a nymph, her gaze soft and inviting, nestled amongst ferns near a trickling stream. Or perhaps a more robust depiction of a satyr half-man, half-goat, hinting at the wilder, more Dionysian aspects of nature and revelry. The subjects of these sculptures were diverse, yet typically fell into categories that enhanced the garden's atmosphere. There were often mythological figures, like Venus, goddess of love and beauty, or Diana, goddess of the hunt, connecting the earthly garden to the divine realm of Olympus. Figures of Priapic gods, often depicted with exaggerated phalluses, were common guardians of gardens intended to promote fertility and ward off evil. Don't be surprised if you suddenly spot one. The Romans were far less prudish about such matters than we are today, seeing them as symbols of abundance and vitality rather than anything scandalous. It's a cheeky reminder that their sensibilities were in some ways quite different from our own. Beyond the gods and goddesses, you would frequently encounter busts of famous philosophers, poets, or ancestors. Imagine a thoughtful Seneca peering out from a cluster of olive trees, or a wise Homer overseeing the garden's quiet contemplation area. These weren't just about showing off. They were a way for the villa owner to express their intellectual leanings, their admiration for great minds, and to subtly invite guests to engage in elevated discourse. It's like having your personal Hall of Fame, but instead of sports stars, it's filled with ancient intellectuals. Historians still argue whether the placement of certain philosophical busts was merely decorative, or if it indicated specific areas of the garden designated for particular types of intellectual pursuit or moral reflection. Animals were also popular subjects. You might see a playful dolphin spouting water into a basin, or a watchful dog statue guarding the entrance to a path. These added a touch of whimsy and brought the spirit of the wild, albeit a domesticated version, into the cultivated space. Sometimes the statues were even painted, though little of that original color survives today, giving them an even more lifelike appearance. Imagine a brightly painted Bacchus grapevines twining around him, inviting you to enjoy the garden's bounty. The placement of these statues was key. They were positioned to create focal points to draw the eye and to provide unexpected delights as you explored the garden. A hidden grotto might reveal a sleeping Cupid, or a bend in the path might suddenly present a majestic Hercules. It's a deliberate orchestration of discovery, ensuring that every visit offered something new to behold. These weren't just ornaments. They were integral components of the garden's narrative, enhancing its beauty, echoing its themes, and inviting you to step into a world where art, nature, and myth intertwined effortlessly. Remember that feeling of stumbling upon a forgotten treasure? That's what these statues often felt like, a quiet whisper from the past, inviting you to ponder deeper meanings amidst the simple pleasures of the Roman garden. As you continue your exploration, you can't help but notice the meticulously shaped greenery that seems to defy nature's wild tendencies. This is the art of topiary, a quintessential element of the Roman villa garden, showcasing a dedication to control and artistry that went far beyond mere pruning. Imagine hedges sculpted not just into neat rectangles, but into intricate spirals, towering pyramids, or even whimsical animal forms. You might encounter a proud peacock crafted from boxwood, its green plumage shimmering in the sunlight, or a playful bear seemingly lumbering across the lawn, all fashioned from living plants. The Romans were utterly obsessed with topiary, and it became a genuine status symbol. The more complex and elaborate the living sculptures in one's garden, the more prestige it conferred upon the owner. It was a visible demonstration of wealth, taste, and the ability to employ skilled gardeners dedicated to this painstaking craft. Think of it as the ultimate flex of ancient landscape design, far more impressive than simply having the biggest lawn. It wasn't uncommon for garden designers to be celebrated artists in their own right, their names passed down for their ability to coax such remarkable forms from stubborn shrubs. Historians still argue whether the concept of topiary originated with the Romans, or if they adopted and refined an earlier Hellenistic or even Persian practice. The plants primarily used for topiary were evergreens like boxwood, Buxus sempervirens, Myrtle myrtus communis, and Bay Laurel lauris nobilis. These plants were chosen for their dense foliage, slow growth, and ability to withstand constant shaping. It was a labor-intensive process requiring continuous trimming and careful training over many years, sometimes even generations. Imagine the patience required to transform a simple bush into a majestic ship, complete with sails or a detailed inscription of the owner's name. It's like sculpting with time itself relying on growth and decay to achieve the final perfect form. This artistic control over nature wasn't just about showing off. It also contributed to the overall sense of order and serenity in the garden. The crisp lines and defined shapes of topiary provided a visual anchor, a sense of permanence within the ever-changing natural world. They served as living architectural elements, defining pathways, framing views, and creating green walls that partitioned different areas of the garden, much like the internal rooms of the villa. You might find a perfectly rounded sphere marking the entrance to a secluded nook or a row of precisely conical trees, leading your eye towards a distant statue. While modern gardens often lean towards a more natural or wild aesthetic, the Roman passion for topiary reminds us that beauty can also be found in strict control and deliberate artistry. It's a fascinating glimpse into a culture that valued human ingenuity and the ability to impose order on the world around them, even down to the very leaves of their beloved plants. And honestly, who wouldn't want a living, breathing chess set in their backyard waiting for a giant to come along and play? It certainly adds a playful yet sophisticated touch to the landscape. Beyond the intricate topiary and flowing fountains, the Roman villa garden held a profoundly practical purpose: the cultivation of eatables. This wasn't merely a decorative expanse. It was often a vibrant larder providing fresh produce, herbs, and fruits directly to the villa's kitchen. You might wander past rows of neatly planted cabbages, their leaves dewy in the morning light, or vibrant green patches of lettuce, and onions are staples of the Roman diet. This was farm to table long before it became a trendy restaurant concept. It was simply how life was lived. Imagine the rich, earthy scent of disturbed soil as gardeners tended to their plots, or the sweet aroma of ripening fruit on a hot afternoon. The Romans cultivated a wide variety of vegetables that would be familiar to us today, including peas, beans, carrots, turnips, and gourds. These were not just for the master's table. They fed the entire household, including the numerous slaves and freedmen who kept the villa running. It speaks to a certain self-sufficiency, a reliance on the land that is often lost in our modern globally supplied world. Historians still argue whether the scale of these kitchen gardens was primarily for household consumption or if surplus produce was sometimes sold in local markets. But it wasn't just vegetables. Fruit trees were an essential component, often integrated seamlessly into the ornamental areas of the garden. You would find groves of annurin, 8 olives wound for oil, figs dripping with sweetness, pomegranates bursting with jewel-like seeds, and of course, grapes. For winemaking, these trees provided shade, beauty, and a continuous harvest throughout the seasons. Picture the vibrant purple of ripe grapes hanging heavy from a trellis, or the silvery green leaves of an ancient olive tree shimmering in the breeze. It's a testament to the bounty of the Mediterranean climate and the Romans' skill in harnessing it. And then there were the Herfsorian Ishoim. These were invaluable not just for culinary purposes, but for medicinal uses and even for perfumery. You'd encounter fragrant beds of rosemary, its piney scent invigorating, thyme, often growing wild among the paving stones, oregano pungent and warm, and mint refreshing and cool. These herbs would be used to flavor every dish from simple stews to elaborate banquets and to brew calming teas or prepare poultices for ailments. It's a reminder of a time when the local pharmacy was literally just outside your door. The integration of these practical edibles within a space designed for leisure highlights the Roman philosophy that true pleasure came from a holistic connection to one's environment. The garden wasn't just a place to look at, it was a place to live in, to eat from, to thrive in. It was a beautiful and productive ecosystem, reflecting the deep understanding Romans had of agriculture and their symbiotic relationship with the land. No wonder they loved their villas. They were essentially self-contained paradises, providing both sensory delight and fundamental sustenance. It certainly beats ordering in, doesn't it? Though I bet they didn't have a delivery app, so maybe our lives aren't entirely without merit. Beyond the visual feast and the practical bounty, one of the most delightful yet often overlooked aspects of the Roman villa garden was its fragrance as an art. The Romans meticulously planned not just what plants looked good, but how they smelled, creating a complex shifting symphony of scents that would constantly delight and soothe the senses. Imagine stepping into a garden where the air itself felt perfumed, where every breath brought a new nuance, a fresh layer to the olfactory tapestry. This wasn't accidental, it was a deliberate orchestration of nature's finest perfumes. The superstars of this aromatic art were undoubtedly the marrosiscum. While we often associate them with their vibrant colors, ancient roses were prized just as much, if not more, for their intense, intoxicating scent. You might find entire beds dedicated to different varieties, their petals gathered for perfume cosmetics or scattered lavishly at banquets. The heady sweetness of 100 blooming roses mingling with the crisp, clean scent of damp earth after a light sprinkle is something truly special. But it wasn't just roses, violets. Delicate yet powerfully fragrant, would carpet shady areas, releasing their sweet perfume as you walk by. Then there were the ubiquitous herbs we touched upon earlier, but now think of them not just for cooking, but for their aromatic qualities. The pungent, stimulating scent of rosemary and a lavender would fill the air in sunnier spots, perhaps near a seating area known for their calming properties. The peppery notes of myrtle and the sweet, almost almond-like scent of Marbe laurel would contribute to the background, creating a rich, complex base. It's like having a living potpourri constantly refreshing itself, far more sophisticated than any store-bought air freshener. Historians still argue whether certain plants were cultivated more for their ritualistic or symbolic fragrance than for their purely aesthetic or practical uses. Consider also the clever placement of fragrant plants near windows or outdoor dining areas. The evening breeze particularly would carry these delightful aromas into the villa itself, blurring the lines between the cultivated garden and the comfort of the home. It's a subtle form of luxury and immersive sensory experience that requires no effort beyond simply breathing. They understood that smell is one of our most powerful senses, capable of evoking deep memories and emotions. And they harnessed this power to create spaces that were not just beautiful, but profoundly comforting. Even plants with less obvious floral scents contributed. The earthy aroma of freshly turned soil, the crisp, clean smell of cypress and pine, the slightly spicy scent of sun-warmed leaves. All these elements combined to create a unique olfactory signature for each garden. It was a constantly evolving perfume, changing with the time of day, the season, and even the weather. This attention to such an ephemeral detail truly sets Roman garden design apart. It speaks to a deep, holistic appreciation for nature, seeing it not just as a visual spectacle, but as a multi-sensory environment designed to soothe the soul and elevate the spirit. It's the kind of subtle luxury that makes you realize how much we miss when we only focus on what we can see. Remember that old commercial, Calgon, Take Me Away? Romans had their gardens for that. While the Roman garden was a meticulously crafted space for human enjoyment, it was also a place where the natural world was invited in, particularly through the deliberate efforts to attract the birds and bees. Oh my! This wasn't just accidental. It was a conscious design choice to enhance the garden's vitality, and let's be honest, to make it even more charming. Imagine the gentle buzz of bees flitting between blossoms, the cheerful chirping of sparrows, or the melodious cooing of doves. These weren't pests. They were valued inhabitants, adding life and sound to the tranquil setting. To draw in these winged and buzzing visitors, gardeners would strategically plant flowers that were rich in nectar and pollen, ensuring a constant food source for bees and other beneficial insects. Think of the vibrant hues and sweet scents we just explored. They weren't just for human noses and eyes. They were irresistible invitations for pollinators. The presence of bees, of course, was also practical. They ensured the successful pollination of the fruit trees and edible plants, contributing to the garden's bounty. It's a testament to their early understanding of ecosystem services, even if they didn't use such fancy terms. Historians still argue whether the primary motivation for attracting certain types of wildlife was purely aesthetic for practical pest control, or for symbolic reasons related to ancient beliefs about nature's harmony. For the birds, the design would often incorporate features that provided both food and shelter. Small, shallow, on bird baths. We mentioned one earlier would be strategically placed, offering a constant source of fresh water, particularly appealing during the hot summer months. Certain plants would be chosen not just for their flowers, but for their berries or seeds, providing a natural larder for local bird populations. You might even find small aviaries within larger villas, essentially elegant bird cages, housing exotic or particularly tuneful birds whose songs would then drift through the garden. These enclosed bird spaces were less about capturing wild birds and more about housing domesticated ones, much like having a cherished pet. The sounds created by these creatures were an integral part of the garden's sensory appeal. The soft hum of bees, the flitting wings, the diverse array of bird calls. These natural soundscapes contributed to the overall sense of peace and immersion. It was a living, breathing symphony, constantly evolving, far more organic and soothing than any piped-in music. It's a gentle reminder that sometimes the best entertainment is simply paying attention to the world around you. No need for a playlist when nature provides such a rich and varied soundtrack. The presence of abundant wildlife also spoke to the health and vitality of the garden itself. A garden teeming with birds and bees was a thriving garden, well-tended and robust. It was a subtle signal of prosperity and good husbandry on the part of the villa owner. It makes you think about how much we often push nature out of our modern spaces when inviting it in can bring so much life and joy. So next time you're planting, maybe think beyond just pretty flowers and consider what might bring a happy buzz or a cheerful chirp to your little corner of the world. Just try to avoid attracting anything too big unless you're planning on building a very large fence. As you continue to meander through this serene Roman garden, your eye might catch a striking feature that effortlessly blends utility with decorative art, the sundials, and time. These weren't just functional instruments for telling time. They were often elaborate, beautifully crafted pieces, serving as both scientific tools and sculptural adornments. Imagine a graceful marble column, its top a precisely carved gnomon, casting a shadow that slowly, inexorably traces the hours across a marked surface. It's a constant, silent rhythm, a visual representation of time's gentle march, perfectly integrated into the garden's tranquil atmosphere. For the Romans who lived in a world without mechanical clocks, the sundial was a crucial device for structuring their day. Placed in a prominent, sun-drenched spot within the garden, it would allow the villa's residents and staff to gauge the time for meals appointments and daily tasks. It brought a sense of order to the day, measured not by a frantic ticking, but by the slow, natural movement of the sun. It's a far more contemplative way to keep track of time than glancing at a smartphone, isn't it? You're not just reading numbers. You're observing the celestial ballet overhead. Historians still argue whether the precision of Roman sundials was sufficient for daily practical needs, or if they were more symbolic representations of cosmic order within the domestic sphere. The sundials themselves varied greatly in form and complexity. Some were simple flat plates, perhaps made of bronze or carved stone inscribed with hour lines. Others were more elaborate hemispherical bowls or even intricately shaped marble blocks designed to be artistic focal points. The gnomon, the part that casts the shadow, could be a simple stick, a triangular plate, or a more ornate sculptural element like a bird or an arrow. The choice of material and the level of artistic detail would have reflected the wealth and taste of the villa owner, turning a practical necessity into a work of art. Beyond their functional roles, sundials also carried a philosophical weight. They were constant reminders of the passage of time, of the fleeting nature of life, and the importance of savoring each moment. In a garden designed for contemplation and leisure, a sundial served as a subtle memento mori, encouraging residents to appreciate the present. It's like having a daily gentle nudge from the universe to stop and smell the roses, quite literally, before the shadow moves on. The integration of sundials into the garden design also speaks to the Roman appreciation for both natural rhythms and human ingenuity. They understood that time was governed by the sun, and they found elegant ways to bring that cosmic order into their private spaces. It's a beautifully simple concept, yet profoundly effective in grounding one in the present moment. So while you might feel a pang of frustration if your Wi-Fi is slow, imagine trying to figure out if it's time for dinner just by looking at a shadow. Makes you appreciate the little things, doesn't it? Though I suspect the Romans might have been less stressed about dinner being precisely on time. They probably just ate when the shadows felt right. Having seen the grand designs and the philosophical underpinnings of the Roman garden, it's easy to forget the sheer physical effort required to maintain such a paradise. This brings us to a closer look at the garden tools and tech that made these magnificent spaces possible. You might imagine a Roman gardener with nothing more than a sharpened stick, but you'd be surprised by the array of surprisingly sophisticated instruments they had at their disposal, testament to practical Roman ingenuity. One of the most fundamental tools would have been the aho, of which various types existed. From heavy broad-bladed hoes for breaking up tough soil to lighter, narrower versions for weeding between delicate plants. These weren't just crude implements. They were often well-balanced with sturdy wooden handles designed for efficiency and comfort, because let's face it, nobody wants a sore back any more than they did 2,000 years ago. Then there were the shovels and spades, often with iron blades used for digging trenches, planting larger shrubs, or moving earth for terracing. Imagine the effort involved in shaping the very contours of the land with these relatively simple tools. Historians still argue whether the invention of certain specialized digging tools was purely Roman, or whether they adapted designs from earlier Etruscan or Greek agricultural practices. Pruning, as we've seen with topiary, was an art form, and for that, gardeners relied on various types of pruning knives and shears. These would have sharp, curved blades, perfect for shaping hedges, trimming back unruly growth, or collecting cuttings. The skill lay not just in having the tool, but in the hand that wielded it, knowing precisely where to cut, to encourage healthy growth, or to achieve that perfect geometric form. It's like being a surgeon for plants minus the scrubs and the frantic beeping machines. For moving water beyond the impressive aqueducts, individual gardens might have relied on hand-operated pumps or water lifting devices, especially for smaller areas not reached by gravity-fed systems. Think of a simple Archimedes screw manually turned to lift water from a well or cistern to an irrigation channel. And for ground preparation, while large-scale farming used plows within the confines of a villa garden. Rakes would have been essential for smoothing soil-gathering debris and preparing seedbeds. These weren't just bits of wood. Many had iron teeth, making them robust and effective. Even something as seemingly basic as the wheelbarrow existed in rudimentary forms, aiding in the transport of soil compost or harvested produce. While perhaps not as ubiquitous or refined as our modern versions, they highlight a constant drive for efficiency and labor. The Romans understood that good tools made for good work, and the flourishing beauty of their gardens was a direct result of both skilled hands and the implements they employed. It's a subtle reminder that behind every seemingly effortless landscape lies a great deal of hard work and clever, practical innovation. No fancy apps or battery-powered gadgets, just solid craftsmanship and an understanding of mechanics that allowed these ancient gardeners to transform raw earth into exquisite art. So next time you groan about mowing the lawn, spare a thought for the Roman gardener, armed with little more than muscle and finely honed steel. With an understanding of the tools, it's time to consider the individuals who wielded them, day in and day out, the gardener's daily grind. This wasn't a hobby for the villa owner. It was a demanding, continuous effort carried out by a dedicated team often composed of skilled slaves or freedmen under the direction of a villicus or estate manager. Imagine the early morning mist still clinging to the flowers as they began their work long before the villa's residents stirred. Their lives were intrinsically tied to the rhythms of the sun, and the seasons a stark contrast to the more leisurely pursuits of their masters. Their days would begin with meticulous tasks. Watering a dwak was paramount, especially in the dry Mediterranean summers. This often involved manually carrying water from cisterns or directing it through intricate channels to ensure every plant received adequate hydration. Then came the endless battle against weeds bees, a seemingly Sisyphean task that required constant vigilance and backbreaking labor. Every unwanted sprout was a competitor for nutrients and sunlight, and Roman gardens, with their pristine aesthetic, demanded an almost obsessive level of weeding. Historians still argue whether the perceived leisure of Roman garden owners truly reflected a detachment from the intensive labor, or if they were well aware of the daily grind involved. Inspection, pruning, and shaping. The topiary was another ongoing commitment, not a once-a-season affair. Imagine maintaining those perfect geometric forms or intricate animal shapes requiring a steady hand, a keen eye, and an intimate knowledge of how each plant grew. It was a craft passed down through generations, a testament to the specialized skills these gardeners possessed. Beyond aesthetics, they would also be responsible for pest control, often employing natural methods like encouraging beneficial insects, remember our birds and bees, or using natural deterrents derived from plants. No chemical sprays here, just a deep understanding of ecological balance. Then there was the constant work of soil enrichment, composting organic matter, digging in animal manure, and carefully turning the soil were essential for maintaining fertility and ensuring healthy growth. They understood the importance of good soil structure and nutrient cycling long before modern agricultural science formalized these concepts. And of course, the harvesting in Meno of fruits, vegetables, and herbs was a daily chore during the growing seasons, ensuring the villa's kitchen was always supplied with the freshest ingredients. It was a cycle of planting, nurturing, harvesting, and preparing for the next season, a never-ending dance with nature. The life of a Roman gardener, while undoubtedly arduous, also brought with it a unique connection to the land and a profound sense of accomplishment. They were the unsung artists behind the beauty, the quiet heroes whose daily efforts transform wild earth into a cultivated paradise. So next time you admire a beautiful garden, take a moment to appreciate the daily grind that makes such beauty possible. It's a good reminder that effortless elegance usually hides a whole lot of effort, often from people you never see. And unlike us, they couldn't just order a pizza if the harvest failed. Their livelihoods quite literally grew from their hard work. Having explored the intimate world of the villa garden, it's important to understand that not all Roman green spaces were created equal. There was a distinct difference between the major private versus public realms of Roman horticulture, each serving different purposes and reflecting different societal values. While the villa garden was a secluded sanctuary, a personal paradise designed for the exclusive enjoyment of the owner and their invited guests, public gardens were accessible to everyone, designed for the collective good and often imbued with civic or commemorative significance. Imagine the grand scale of Rome's public gardens, like the Gardens of Sallust or the Gardens of Lucullus. These were vast, sprawling estates, often built by wealthy individuals who then bequeathed them to the public for their enjoyment. You would find wide avenues for strolling, grand fountains, impressive statuary, and monumental architecture, all designed to awe and inspire the populace. These were places for social interaction on a grand scale, for public discourse, and for displaying the wealth and generosity of the Roman elite. They were in essence the ancient equivalent of our modern city parks, but with far more marble and far less skateboarding. Historians still argue whether the primary motivation for creating public gardens was genuine philanthropy or a calculated move to gain political favor and public adoration. In contrast, the villa garden, whether suburban or rural, was inherently a place of privacy and introspection. It was a retreat from the bustling crowds and political machinations of the city. Here the scale was often more intimate, the paths more winding, the nooks more secluded. You wouldn't find massive crowds here. Instead, you'd find quiet contemplation. The design emphasized personal comfort and aesthetic pleasure over grand public display. While a public garden might have a colossal statue of a deified emperor, a private villa garden would feature more personal, perhaps philosophical busts or smaller, more charming mythological figures. The experience of these spaces differed profoundly. In a public garden, you might be admiring the grand scale of an aqueduct-fed fountain alongside hundreds of other citizens, discussing the latest political gossip. In a private garden, you would be reclining on a shaded couch, perhaps dictating letters to a scribe, or engaging in quiet conversation with a close friend, the only sounds being the murmur of water and the rustle of leaves. One was for performance, the other for peace. It's like the difference between attending a stadium concert and enjoying a private acoustic session in your living room. Both are music, but the experience is entirely different. The concept of a private garden as a personal haven became increasingly important as Roman society grew more complex and urbanized. It offered an escape, a place where one could truly relax and be oneself away from the constant scrutiny of public life. This desire for tranquil personal space is something we still crave today, perhaps even more so in our hyper-connected world. Remember that feeling of finally shutting the door on the world? The Roman villa garden offered that on a grand natural scale, a truly invaluable pleasure for those who could afford it. And unlike a public park, you probably wouldn't have to worry about stepping in anything unpleasant left behind by a mischievous dog. Our journey through the Roman garden now takes us to a truly remarkable window into the past, the Pompeii's preserved past. The catastrophic eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 CE, while a horrific tragedy inadvertently froze time, preserving not just the villas and their inhabitants, but also their vibrant gardens under layers of volcanic ash and pumice. This unique preservation offers an unparalleled glimpse into the very plants, layouts, and features that we've been imagining. You're no longer just visualizing. You're seeing the ghosts of ancient gardens brought back to life by the archaeologist's careful hand. Imagine walking through the excavated ruins of a Pompeian house, the walls still bearing traces of vivid frescoes, and then stepping into what was once its thriving garden. While the organic matter of the plants themselves largely disintegrated over time, the volcanic ash often created perfect molds of roots, tree trunks, and even smaller plants. Archaeologists have ingeniously used these cavities by pouring plaster or cement into them, creating casts that reveal the precise form and placement of ancient flora. It's like a botanical fossil offering incredible detail on what grew where. You can literally see the imprints of vine roots climbing a pergola or the outlines of a small tree that once provided shade. Historians still argue whether the apparent density of planting in some Pompeian gardens was typical for Roman villas or a localized adaptation to the specific climate and urban density of the city. The finds at Pompeii and nearby Herculaneum have revolutionized our understanding of Roman garden design. We've discovered peristyle gardens with intricate fountain systems, lush kitchen gardens, still identifiable by their regular planting rows, and even elaborate viridaria, complete with garden furniture like marble benches and statues often found precisely where they stood 2 millennia ago. The House of the Vedi, for example, boasts a particularly well-preserved peristyle garden complete with water jets and original statuary, allowing us to reconstruct its appearance with remarkable accuracy. It's a living blueprint of ancient aesthetics, far more informative than any written description could ever be. You can almost hear the buzz of the bees that once visited these flowers, or the murmur of conversation that drifted through the open courtyards. The detailed frescoes found on the walls of many Pompeian villas often depicted garden scenes, providing further clues about the types of plants, birds, and even garden gnomes. Okay, maybe not gnomes, but you get the idea that adorn these spaces. These artistic representations combined with the archaeological evidence create a remarkably complete picture. The sheer normalcy of the gardens in Pompeii is striking. They weren't just grand estates for the elite. Even more modest homes often had a small courtyard garden, a patch of green for beauty and sustenance. This underscores the widespread importance of green spaces in Roman daily life. The ash, though devastating, acted as a benevolent preserver, offering us a snapshot of a vibrant living culture frozen in time. It's a powerful reminder that even in the face of immense destruction, beauty and life persist, waiting to be rediscovered. And unlike trying to piece together a jigsaw puzzle with missing pieces, Pompeii offers almost the entire image, waiting for us to unveil its silent, verdant secrets. Stepping away from the preserved echoes of Pompeii, our Roman garden becomes more than just a feast for the senses or a functional space. It transforms into a realm of the mind, a place for quiet contemplation and intellectual pursuit. This is where philosophy and the flora, truly blossomed where the serene beauty of nature became a catalyst for thought discussion and spiritual reflection. Imagine a renowned philosopher, perhaps Epicurus or Seneca, strolling thoughtfully along a gravel path deep in conversation with a student or simply lost in their own musings amidst the rustling leaves. For many Romans, particularly those of the educated elite, the garden was an essential component of the intellectual life of the villa. It provided the ideal environment for Wotium, a concept that went beyond mere leisure to encompass a purposeful withdrawal from public life for study writing and philosophical debate. This wasn't about idleness. It was about focused intellectual engagement in a setting designed to inspire clarity of thought. You might find a small open-air library, perhaps a niche in a peristyle wall, housing scrolls inviting a moment of quiet reading. Historians still argue whether the presence of specific plants or garden features was intended to evoke particular philosophical schools of thought or simply provided a general atmosphere conducive to reflection. The very design of the garden could reflect philosophical principles. The order and symmetry of a formal Roman garden, for instance, could be seen as an embodiment of Stoic ideals of reason and control, where nature was brought into a rational, harmonious balance. Conversely, a more wild, less manicured section might represent aspects of Epicurean philosophy, emphasizing pleasure simplicity and a connection to unadulterated nature. The winding paths, the secluded grottos, the unexpected vistas, all could serve as metaphors for life's journey, its hidden truths, and moments of sudden revelation. Picture a small group of friends gathered on a stone bench debating the nature of virtue, the role of fate, or the meaning of a happy life, all while the gentle sounds of a fountain provided a soothing backdrop. The fresh air and natural surroundings were believed to stimulate the mind, clearing away the mental clutter of the city and allowing for deeper insights. It was a space where ideas could truly flourish, uninhibited by the formalities of the forum or the demands of the state. The connection between gardens and philosophy wasn't merely metaphorical. Many philosophical schools, like the Peripatetics, who famously taught while walking, found the outdoor setting perfectly suited to their methods. The garden became a living classroom, a laboratory for thought, where abstract concepts could be grounded in the tangible beauty of the natural world. It makes you realize that while we might retreat to a quiet coffee shop or a sterile office to think, the Romans understood the profound power of nature to inspire and clarify the mind. So the next time you're wrestling with a tricky problem, maybe skip the screen and take a walk in a garden. You might just find your own bit of ancient wisdom blooming amidst the flowers. Just don't expect a toga to make you instantly smarter. That's probably just Hollywood. Delving deeper into the Roman garden's rich tapestry, we uncover not just beauty and philosophy, but also the vibrant stories woven into the very fabric of its plant life. Mythological plant lore. For the Romans, plants weren't just botanical specimens. They were imbued with history, legend, and divine associations, making the garden a living narrative, a constant reminder of their rich pantheon of gods and heroes. Every laurel bush, every rose, every cypress tree could whisper tales of transformation, love, and tragedy. Imagine strolling past a stately laurel tree, Laurus nobilis, its dark green leaves shimmering. You wouldn't just see a plant. You'd remember the tragic story of Apollo and Daphne, how the nymph fleeing Apollo's unwanted advances was transformed into a laurel tree at her own request to escape him. The laurel then became sacred to Apollo, a symbol of poetic inspiration, victory, and honor, often used to crown poets and triumphant generals. So when a Roman saw a laurel, it wasn't just greenery. It was a living monument to divine intervention and enduring fame. Historians still argue whether the widespread adoption of certain plants with strong mythological associations was due to genuine religious belief or simply a popular cultural trend. Then there's the ubiquitous Chevalier or Myrtle Myrtus communis, with small fragrant leaves and white flowers often forming hedges or small shrubs. This plant was sacred to Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, and fertility. It was believed to be a symbol of love, peace, and eternal life. Brides would often wear myrtle wreaths, and it was a common motif in love poetry. So a Roman in a garden full of myrtle would feel the gentle presence of Venus, perhaps inspiring thoughts of romance or beauty. It's a subtle way to bring the divine into everyday life, far more elegant than, say, a giant statue of Cupid in your backyard. Consider the cypress tree, Cupressus sempervirens. Its tall, somber form, a distinctive feature in many Roman gardens. This tree was deeply associated with mourning and the underworld sacred to Pluto and Proserpina. It was often planted near tombs and temples devoted to funerary rites. Its evergreen nature, however, also symbolized eternal life or remembrance. Its presence in a villa garden might seem counterintuitive to a place of pleasure, but it served as a quiet reminder of mortality and the cycle of life, grounding the earthly joys in a deeper understanding of existence. It's like a gentle green pause for reflection. Even the humble poppy hunt had its lore associated with Ceres, the goddess of agriculture, due to its abundance in grain fields. It was also linked to sleep and dreams, and by extension to death. So a patch of vibrant red poppies wasn't just a pretty splash of color. It carried layers of meaning about life sustenance and the mysteries of slumber. This integration of myth into the very flora meant that the garden was not just a visual spectacle, but a constantly unfolding story, a dialogue between the human world and the timeless narratives of the gods. It allowed the Romans to walk through their myths, making their beliefs tangible and ever-present. It truly was a living library of legends, quietly unfurling around you with every step. Delving deeper into the Roman garden's rich tapestry, we uncover not just beauty and philosophy, but also the vibrant stories woven into the very fabric of its plant life. Mythological plant lore. For the Romans, plants weren't just botanical specimens. They were imbued with history, legend, and divine associations, making the garden a living narrative, a constant reminder of their rich pantheon of gods and heroes. Every laurel bush, every rose, every cypress tree could whisper tales of transformation, love, and tragedy. Imagine strolling past a stately laurel tree, Laurus nobilis, its dark green leaves shimmering. You wouldn't just see a plant. You'd remember the tragic story of Apollo and Daphne, how the nymph fleeing Apollo's unwanted advances was transformed into a laurel tree at her own request to escape him. The laurel then became sacred to Apollo, a symbol of poetic inspiration, victory, and honor, often used to crown poets and triumphant generals. So when a Roman saw a laurel, it wasn't just greenery. It was a living monument to divine intervention and enduring fame. Historians still argue whether the widespread adoption of certain plants with strong mythological associations was due to genuine religious belief or simply a popular cultural trend. Then there's the ubiquitous myrtle, Myrtus communis. Its small fragrant leaves and white flowers often forming hedges or small shrubs. This plant was sacred to Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, and fertility. It was believed to be a symbol of love, peace, and eternal life. Brides would often wear myrtle wreaths, and it was a common motif in love poetry. So a Roman in a garden full of myrtle would feel the gentle presence of Venus, perhaps inspiring thoughts of romance or beauty. It's a subtle way to bring the divine into everyday life, far more elegant than, say, a giant statue of Cupid in your backyard. Consider the cypress tree, Cupressus sempervirens. Its tall, somber form, a distinctive feature in many Roman gardens. This tree was deeply associated with mourning and the underworld sacred to Pluto and Proserpina. It was often planted near tombs and temples devoted to funerary rites. Its evergreen nature, however, also symbolized eternal life or remembrance. Its presence in a villa garden might seem counterintuitive to a place of pleasure, but it served as a quiet reminder of mortality and the cycle of life, grounding the earthly joys in a deeper understanding of existence. It's like a gentle green pause for reflection. Even the humble poppy had its lore associated with Ceres, the goddess of agriculture, due to its abundance in grain fields. It was also linked to sleep and dreams, and by extension, to death. So a patch of vibrant red poppies wasn't just a pretty splash of color. It carried layers of meaning about life sustenance and the mysteries of slumber. This integration of myth into the very flora meant that the garden was not just a visual spectacle, but a constantly unfolding story, a dialogue between the human world and the timeless narratives of the gods. It allowed the Romans to walk through their myths, making their beliefs tangible and ever-present. It truly was a living library of legends, quietly unfurling around you with every step. Beyond the stories and symbolic meanings, the Roman villa garden was at its heart a vibrant canvas brought to life by the hot colors of the cosmos. The palette of flowers and foliage wasn't accidental. It was carefully chosen to create harmonious visual effects, often mimicking the natural world, or reflecting the Roman appreciation for both subtle beauty and dramatic contrast. Imagine stepping into a space where every shade of green was accented by bursts of brilliant red, sunny yellow, or calming blue, all under the ever-present Mediterranean sky. The dominant color naturally was reed green, provided by the diverse array of trees, shrubs, and ground covers. From the deep, almost black green of the cypress and yew, to the silvery green of olive leaves and the fresh, bright green of new spring growth, the Romans understood how to layer these different shades to create depth and texture. This verdant backdrop provided a calming, restful base against which other colors could truly pop. It's the visual equivalent of a gentle hum, allowing the melodies to truly stand out. Historians still argue whether the Roman preference for certain color combinations in their gardens reflected deeper philosophical beliefs about nature's harmony or simply practical considerations based on available plant species. Against this green canvas, the Romans introduced a riot of floral color. Roses, as we've discussed, were paramount, offering shades from brilliant whites and soft pinks to deep crimson reds. Imagine hedges of roses, their blooms creating vibrant swathes of color that change with the seasons. Violets, delicate yet visually impactful, would provide carpets of purple and blue in shady spots, their hues complementing the cooler tones of water features. Lilies, an often white or pale yellow, would add elegant vertical accents, their trumpet-like blooms standing out against the darker foliage. Other popular choices included the fiery reds and oranges of the poppies, which despite their symbolic associations also provided stunning visual drama. The cheerful yellows of calendula or marigold's wines would add bright sunny accents, particularly in kitchen gardens, bringing a sense of warmth and cheer. Even the choice of colored stones for pathways or the pigments in garden frescoes would contribute to the overall color scheme, tying the living garden to the built environment in a cohesive, aesthetically pleasing way. The strategic placement of these colors was crucial. A Roman designer wouldn't just throw all the bright colors together. They would create focal points, guide the eye, and establish a visual flow. A patch of vibrant red flowers might draw attention to a statue, or a pathway might be lined with contrasting colors to create a sense of movement. The changing seasons also brought their own shifting palette, from the fresh greens and bright pastels of spring to the deeper, richer tones of summer and the warm golds and reds of autumn fruits. It's a dynamic living artwork, constantly evolving, far more captivating than any static painting. The Roman villa garden truly was a place where the colors of the cosmos, from the terrestrial greens to the vibrant blues of the sky, were brought together in a harmonious, endlessly fascinating display. It makes you wonder if our modern love for monochrome interiors sometimes misses out on the joy of a truly colorful world. Beyond the visual splendor and fragrant embrace, the Roman villa garden offered another crucial element for true serenity: the soundscapes of serenity. This wasn't a silent space. Rather, it was a symphony of subtle, natural sounds, carefully curated to soothe the soul and deepen the sense of peace. Imagine closing your eyes and just listening: the gentle splash of water, the rustle of leaves, the distant cooing of doves, perhaps even the faint hum of a bee. It's a natural sound bath designed to melt away the cacophony of daily life. The most prominent and consistently calming sound would have been that of water. We've talked about the ingenious fountains and rills, but now focus on their auditory contribution. The constant rhythmic trickle of a fountain, the soft gurgle of water flowing through a channel, or the delicate splash of a spout filling a basin. These sounds were not only beautiful, but also remarkably effective at masking other less desirable noises from outside the garden walls. It's the ancient world's answer to a white noise machine, far more pleasant and organic. The Romans intuitively understood the calming effect of moving water, how it could draw the listener into a meditative state. Historians still argue whether the elaborate sound design of certain features was solely for aesthetic pleasure or if it held deeper psychological or even therapeutic intentions. Complementing the water would be the one sounds of nature's breath. The wind. Imagine a gentle breeze rustling through the leaves of a cypress tree, creating a soft, whispering sigh. The rustle of olive leaves, distinct from the sharper sound of bay laurel, would add layers to this natural symphony. It's a subtle reminder of the living, breathing world around you, a constant, gentle motion that keeps the space feeling alive without being overwhelming. These weren't violent gusts, but soft, caressing breezes carefully channeled by the garden's layout and the height of its surrounding walls to enhance the auditory experience. And of course, the voices of the garden's inhabitants. The birds and the bees. The industrious hum of bees as they worked among the flowers, the cheerful chirping of sparrows, the deeper coo of a hidden dove. These avian and insect sounds added vital notes to the soundscape. They signaled health, vitality, and a harmonious ecosystem. For a Roman, these sounds weren't just background noise. They were a testament to the thriving life within their cultivated paradise. It's a far cry from the urban din that often encroaches on our modern green spaces, reminding us how much we lose when we pave over nature. The absence of loud, jarring noises was as important as the presence of soothing ones. The high walls surrounding many villa gardens not only provided privacy, but also acted as sound barriers, insulating the serene interior from the hustle and bustle of the outside world. It was a deliberate creation of an acoustic sanctuary, a place where the mind could truly quiet itself. It makes you think about how much our modern lives are bombarded by noise, and how much we could benefit from creating our own little soundscapes of serenity, even if it's just turning off the TV and listening to the rain. The Romans knew that true luxury wasn't just about what you could see, but about what you could feel here, and ultimately how profoundly at peace you could be. Within these meticulously crafted soundscapes and vibrant hues, the Roman villa garden also offered carefully designed spaces for individual repose. This brings us to the crucial element of a seating for solitude. These weren't just random rocks. They were thoughtfully placed benches, alcoves, and nooks designed to invite moments of private reflection, quiet reading, or intimate conversation away from the larger social areas of the villa. Imagine finding your perfect spot, a hidden gem, within the green embrace where the world outside simply melts away. You might discover a graceful marble bench, often curved to embrace the natural contours of a shaded grotto, or placed strategically to offer a perfect view of a fountain. These benches were often highly ornamental, perhaps with carved lion's paws for legs or intricate patterns along their surface, transforming a simple seating area into a piece of garden art. Their smooth, cool surface would have been a welcome respite on a warm day, inviting you to sit and simply be. It's the ancient version of finding that perfect sun-drenched window seat with a good book. Historians still argue whether the prevalence of secluded seating areas was a reflection of a deeply ingrained Roman appreciation for solitary contemplation or a practical necessity for finding quiet moments in often bustling multi-generational households. Beyond the formal benches, you'd also encounter more informal seating arrangements. Perhaps a series of low, comfortable stone ledges and built into a retaining wall, softened with cushions for leisurely lounging. Or even a raised platform covered by a fragrant pergola, draped with grapevines or climbing roses, offering a cool, dappled shade and an intimate sense of enclosure. These were spaces designed for lingering, for allowing thoughts to drift freely, or for engaging in quiet, meaningful dialogue with a trusted companion. The placement of these solitary spots was crucial. They were often tucked away from the main thoroughfares and public dining areas, providing a sense of seclusion without feeling isolated. A bench might be positioned to overlook a particularly beautiful flower bed or to capture the gentle sound of a distant waterfall, ensuring that even in solitude one remained connected to the garden's sensory delights. Imagine finding a quiet corner where you could write poetry, compose letters, or simply meditate with only the rustle of leaves for company. These seating areas underscore the Roman understanding of human well-being. They recognize the need for both social interaction and personal space for moments of boisterous enjoyment and periods of quiet introspection. The garden, therefore, was not just a monolithic entity, but a collection of diverse microenvironments, each catering to different moods and needs. It allowed the villa's inhabitants to curate their own experience, to choose their level of engagement with both nature and society. So while we might escape to a quiet coffee shop or a spare room, the Romans had entire landscapes designed to facilitate peace and quiet and architectural acknowledgement of the importance of mental calm. And honestly, a marble bench in a rose garden probably beats a noisy cafe any day. Just remember to bring your own cushion unless you like a truly authentic Roman posterior experience. As we journey deeper into the Roman garden's enduring appeal, it becomes clear that this was more than just a passing fancy. It was truly the Roman love affair. The passion for gardening transcended social classes and regions, becoming an intrinsic part of what it meant to live well in the Roman world. From the grand sprawling estates of the emperors and senators to the modest courtyard gardens of tradesmen in Pompeii, the desire to cultivate and enjoy green spaces was pervasive. You might picture a stoic general fresh from a campaign finding solace in pruning his roses, or a busy merchant unwinding by tending to his fig tree after a long day in the forum. This wasn't just a utilitarian pursuit, it was an emotional and aesthetic connection. Romans wrote extensively about their gardens, not just in practical agricultural treatises like those by Cato or Varro, but in poetry, letters, and philosophical works. Pliny the Younger's detailed descriptions of his villas at Laurentum and Tusculum paint vivid pictures of gardens designed for beauty contemplation and productivity, showcasing a deep personal affection for these spaces. His letters convey a sense of peaceful retreat in intellectual stimulation, derived directly from his cultivated surroundings. Historians still argue whether the detailed literary descriptions of Roman gardens were idealized representations or accurate reflections of their actual splendor and functionality. The love for gardening was also evident in the popular art of the period. Frescoes depicting lush garden scenes, often with birds' fountains and mythological figures, adorned the walls of villas, even those without extensive outdoor space. This suggests a desire to bring the essence of the garden indoors to live, surrounded by its beauty, even when physical space was limited. It's like having a virtual garden wall, but painted with breathtaking detail, a testament to how deeply the idea of a garden was embedded in the Roman psyche. It makes you wonder if our modern obsession with houseplants is just a scaled-down version of this ancient yearning. This widespread enthusiasm fostered a culture of expertise. Gardeners were not just laborers, they were skilled professionals valued for their knowledge of plants, irrigation, and design. There was a sophisticated understanding of horticulture passed down through generations, ensuring that these intricate landscapes could be maintained and evolved over centuries. It was a respected craft, one that contributed significantly to the quality of life for the Roman elite. Furthermore, the act of gardening itself provided a direct connection to nature, a grounding experience in a rapidly urbanizing world. In a society where status and political maneuvering often dominated public life, the garden offered a private sphere where one could reconnect with simpler pleasures and the cyclical rhythms of the earth. It was a form of mindful engagement long before mindfulness became a buzzword. This deep abiding affection for gardens wasn't just a fleeting trend. It was a fundamental aspect of Roman culture, a testament to their enduring appreciation for beauty, tranquility, and the profound satisfaction that comes from nurturing life. It reminds you that some joys are truly timeless, transcending millennia and cultures, proving that sometimes the simplest things really are the best. This profound love for gardens naturally led to a fascinating aspect of Roman horticulture, the journey of the year. Exotic imports arrive. The vastness of the Roman Empire, stretching from Britannia to Mesopotamia, meant that Roman gardens weren't limited to indigenous Mediterranean flora. As legions expanded territories and trade routes, flourished new and wondrous plants from distant lands began to make their way back to Italy, transforming gardens into living collections of botanical marvels. Imagine the excitement of a villa owner receiving a rare specimen from Egypt or the Middle East, a plant never before seen on Italian soil. This wasn't just about pretty flowers. It was a testament to Roman ambition and curiosity, a desire to bring the wonders of the known world home. The transportation of live plants over vast distances was a monumental logistical challenge, requiring careful planning to ensure their survival. They had to account for climate changes, soil requirements, and the delicate nature of roots and foliage. Think of a greenhouse on wheels, or perhaps, more accurately, a small, carefully managed nursery painstakingly hauled across continents. This was horticultural globalization ancient style, and it certainly didn't involve air freight. Historians still argue whether the success rate of transplanting truly exotic species was high enough to justify the immense effort and expense involved for common villa owners. From the cooler climes of the north, you might find species like Onuliduan larch or fir trees, providing a different textural element and scent to the classic Mediterranean landscape. From the warmer, more arid regions of the east, plants like our date palms, though perhaps struggling to bear fruit in Italy, or citrus trees. Lemons and oranges, though possibly introduced later in the Roman period, would have been prized for their novelty and their fragrant blossoms. Imagine the thrill of seeing a plant that only a few years prior was utterly unknown in Italy, a living souvenir of distant conquests or lucrative trade. Spices and medicinal plants also made their way into Roman gardens, often first cultivated in specialized plots, before perhaps making their way into ornamental areas. Pepper, though not grown in Italy, demonstrates the Roman fascination with far-off flavors. And while they couldn't grow it, they could certainly import other aromatics that hinted at its exotic origins. The introduction of these foreign species not only enriched the botanical diversity of Roman gardens, but also showcased the owner's wealth and connections. A garden boasting plants from across the empire was a clear statement of status, a living map of Roman dominance. The knowledge required to successfully cultivate these imported plants was also highly valued. Gardeners had to adapt their techniques, understanding the specific needs of each new species, a continuous process of learning and experimentation. It pushed the boundaries of Roman horticulture, transforming gardens from mere aesthetic spaces into vibrant laboratories of botanical discovery. So while we might scroll through online catalogs for exotic plants today, imagine the effort and wonder involved in acquiring a genuinely unknown species 2 millennia ago. It truly was a testament to the insatiable Roman desire to explore, to conquer, and to bring the world's beauty home, one carefully nurtured plant at a time. It definitely makes your last online plant order feel a little less adventurous, doesn't it? The beauty of the Roman villa garden wasn't confined to the outdoors. It frequently extended its reach, spilling over into the interior spaces through garden art indoors too. This blurring of lines between inside and out was a hallmark of Roman design, creating a seamless connection that brought the tranquility and vibrancy of the garden directly into the villa's rooms. You might find yourself walking through a frescoed dining room where the walls dissolve into painted landscapes, transforming the solid structure into an illusion of open-air living. The most common manifestation of this indoor garden art was through Cunana frescoes, particularly in villas discovered in Pompeii and Herculaneum. Imagine entire walls painted with lush, detailed garden scenes, blossoming trees, exotic birds perched on branches, playful fountains, and serene mythological figures. These weren't just simple landscapes. They were often highly realistic depictions designed to extend the actual garden visually, or to bring a garden into a room that didn't have direct access to one. It was the ancient world's virtual reality, a constant feast for the eyes that offered a perpetual springtime. Historians still argue whether the purpose of these garden frescoes was purely aesthetic, a form of escapism, or if they held deeper symbolic meanings for the villa's inhabitants. These painted gardens often featured plants and creatures that might not even be found in the actual villa garden, showcasing the owner's idealized vision or their knowledge of exotic flora. You might see peacocks, fantastical beasts, or rare flowers depicted with exquisite detail, transforming a plain wall into a window onto a fantastical paradise. The artist demonstrated incredible skill in creating depth and perspective, making the flat surface appear to recede into a boundless landscape. It's like stepping into a living painting, a delightful trick of the eye that constantly broadened your world. Beyond frescoes, mosaics also played a significant role. Floors might feature intricate mosaic patterns depicting aquatic scenes, fish, dolphins, or even mythical sea creatures. bringing the freshness and movement of water indoors. Or perhaps patterns of vines, flowers, and leaves mirroring the botanical motifs found in the garden outside. These floor mosaics reinforce the connection to nature, underfoot a constant reminder of the beauty surrounding the villa. It's a remarkably sophisticated way to integrate themes, creating a cohesive aesthetic that flowed from one space to the next. Even everyday objects contributed to this indoor garden theme. Household items might be decorated with floral motifs, and pottery could be shaped like fruits or leaves. The very furniture might be carved with acanthus leaves or other botanical patterns. This pervasive use of garden imagery suggests a deep psychological comfort and joy derived from the natural world. For the Romans, the garden wasn't just a place, it was an idea, a feeling, a source of profound well-being that they sought to integrate into every aspect of their lives, blurring the boundaries between the cultivated outdoors and the comfortable indoors. It makes you realize that our modern open-plan living and bring the outdoors in decor trends are really just echoes of an ancient timeless desire for harmony with nature. And honestly, a hand-painted fresco probably lasts longer than that trendy wallpaper you just put up. Amidst the serene beauty and philosophical nooks of the Roman villa garden, it's easy to overlook a crucial, vibrant aspect: children at play. These magnificent green spaces weren't just for adult contemplation or sophisticated entertaining. They were also the playgrounds of the young, providing ample room for games, exploration, and the simple joys of childhood. Imagine the laughter echoing through the peristyle, the patter of bare feet on cool mosaic floors, or the shouts of delight from a game of hide-and-seek among the cypress trees. For Roman children, particularly those of wealthier families who spent significant time at their villas, the garden was an expansive and stimulating environment. Unlike cramped city dwellings, the villa garden offered freedom and fresh air. They could chase butterflies, watch frogs in the fountains, or simply run wild, expending youthful energy in a safe and beautiful setting. Think of it as the ultimate natural playscape, far more imaginative than any manufactured playground, complete with real flowers to pick, probably getting told off for it just like kids today, and real fruit to sneak from the trees. Historians still argue whether Roman parenting styles encouraged free play in gardens, or if children's activities were more structured even in leisure spaces. The garden's various features would have been natural catalysts for games. The open lawn areas could become arenas for chasing games or rudimentary ball sports. The winding paths and dense shrubbery would be perfect for games of hide and seek, with hidden statues becoming secret bases. The fountains, while beautiful, would undoubtedly have been targets for splashing and playful dares, much to the chagrin of the villa's overseers. Imagine a group of Roman kids daring each other to touch the nose of a marble satyr, giggling as they got a splash of water for their bravery. Beyond active play, the garden also offered spaces for more imaginative pursuits. A secluded grotto could transform into a secret lair for mythical adventures, or a large tree might become a makeshift fort. Children would learn about nature firsthand, observing the insects, the birds, and the changing seasons. They would see where their food came from, understanding the rhythms of planting and harvest in a way that modern children often don't. This direct connection to the natural world would have fostered a sense of wonder and curiosity, shaping their understanding of the world around them. Even the adults might have encouraged certain games or activities, perhaps storytelling sessions under a shady arbor, or lessons on the constellations while gazing up at the night sky from an open courtyard. The garden was a place for learning as well as play, a holistic environment that nurtured both body and mind. It's a charming thought, seeing these ancient spaces not just as historical artifacts, but as vibrant settings where childhood memories were made echoing across millennia. So while we might worry about screen time, the Roman approach to childhood leisure seems to have involved a lot more fresh air, imagination, and perhaps a few mud-stained togas. As you continue to soak in the atmosphere of the Roman villa garden, it becomes undeniably clear that these verdant spaces were much more than just beautiful retreats. They were a profound garden as a status symbol. While we've explored their practical uses and their role in personal tranquility, the sheer scale, complexity, and exoticism of a Roman garden often served as an overt display of wealth, power, and refined taste. Imagine a visiting dignitary stepping into a villa garden and instantly understanding the owner's elevated position in Roman society simply by the grandeur of the landscape around them. The size of the garden itself was often the first indicator of status. Vast tracts of manicured land, especially near urban centers, were incredibly expensive to acquire and even more costly to maintain. Owning an expansive garden indicated not just immense wealth, but also leisure time, as such spaces were primarily for enjoyment rather than essential agriculture. It's the ancient equivalent of having a sprawling estate with a private golf course and a helipad, a clear sign you've made it. Historians still argue whether the ostentatious displays of garden wealth were primarily for social signaling or a genuine expression of personal aesthetic preference. Beyond mere size, the elaborate features within the garden spoke volumes. A complex system of fountains fed by private aqueducts or sophisticated water lifting mechanisms was a massive investment. The more jets, the more elaborate the statuary, the more impressive the water features, the higher the owner's standing. It wasn't just about having water, it was about demonstrating your control over it, turning a basic necessity into a luxurious spectacle. Remember that earlier point about water organs and trick fountains. Those were expensive party tricks, not something your average Roman citizen would have installed. The quality and quantity of the sculpture within a garden also served as a potent status symbol. Importing Greek marble statues, commissioning skilled Roman sculptors, or acquiring ancient busts of revered figures all required significant financial outlay. A garden filled with a pantheon of gods and heroes, each expertly crafted, was a testament to both wealth and cultural sophistication. It implied that the owner was not merely rich, but also highly educated and appreciative of the arts. It's like collecting priceless art today, but your gallery is outdoors and you have to worry about birds perching on your masterpieces. And of course, the exotic plants we just discussed were the ultimate flex, bringing in rare species from the far corners of the empire and successfully cultivating them demonstrated global connections, wealth, and horticultural expertise. A lemon tree from the east or a plant from distant Africa thriving in an Italian garden was a living trophy, a botanical declaration of influence and resources. It wasn't just about beauty, it was about bragging rights subtly or not so subtly, communicating one's importance without uttering a single word. The maintenance of such a garden also required a large retinue of skilled gardeners and laborers, another visible sign of immense wealth and the ability to command a substantial workforce. The pristine condition of a grand garden, flawlessly manicured and constantly tended, loudly proclaimed the owner's ability to afford such dedication. So while you might appreciate the simple pleasures of a Roman villa garden, remember that for many it was also a very public declaration of power and prestige, a lush, living testament to their place at the apex of Roman society. It was indeed a flex, and one that still impresses thousands of years later. Having basked in the glory of the Roman villa garden, our journey must now acknowledge its eventual decline and rediscovery. Like all empires and their cultural expressions, the magnificent Roman gardens faced a period of decay, often falling into ruin and obscurity for centuries, only to be unearthed and reappreciated much later. You might imagine these once vibrant spaces slowly succumbing to the relentless advance of nature, reclaiming what was once tamed with only faint echoes of their former splendor remaining. The decline of the Roman Empire, beginning roughly in the 4th and 5th centuries CE, brought with it a shift in societal priorities and a loss of the centralized power and wealth that supported such elaborate luxuries. As economic stability dwindled and populations fragmented, the resources necessary for maintaining vast ornate gardens simply ceased to exist. Aqueducts crumbled, fountains ran dry, and the skilled horticulturalists who tended the exotic plants dispersed. Imagine a once pristine topiary peacock slowly losing its shape, gradually returning to a wild untamed bush as no hand came to prune it. Historians still debate whether the decline in garden maintenance was a direct result of economic collapse or a broader cultural shift away from the Roman ideals of otium and aesthetic grandeur. Over centuries, many villa gardens were abandoned entirely, their structures collapsing and their carefully planned landscapes reverting to wilderness. Forests encroached upon former pathways, and the delicate marble statues were either broken, stolen, or buried under layers of earth and debris. Knowledge of their sophisticated irrigation techniques and plant cultivation practices also faded lost amidst the turbulent periods that followed the Roman era. For a long time, the grandeur of Rome was primarily seen through its military might and monumental architecture, with its green spaces largely forgotten or misinterpreted. However, the story doesn't end in ruin. The Mara discovery of these gardens began in earnest with the Renaissance, particularly in Italy, where there was a renewed interest in classical antiquity. Scholars, artists, and wealthy patrons look back to Roman texts and archaeological remains for inspiration. This period saw the first attempts at excavating ancient sites, though often less scientifically than we do today, focusing on retrieving prized statues rather than understanding the full context of a garden. The true renaissance for understanding Roman gardens came much later, with the systematic archaeological excavations of the 18th, 19th, and 20th centuries, most famously at Pompeii and Herculaneum. As we discussed, the unique preservation conditions there offered unprecedented insights revealing the actual layouts, planting schemes and features of ancient gardens with incredible detail. It was like finally finding the blueprint for a lost masterpiece. This scientific approach allowed scholars to move beyond mere speculation, piecing together a much more accurate picture of these verdant realms. Today, many of these excavated gardens are either meticulously preserved as archaeological sites or have been carefully reconstructed, allowing us to walk in the footsteps of ancient Romans. The Ravilla of Pompeii at Oplontis, for example, offers stunning views of its restored gardens, allowing visitors to experience something akin to their original splendor. This ongoing work of rediscovery continues to deepen our appreciation for the Roman love affair with nature and design, reminding us that even after millennia, beauty can reemerge from the dust of time. It's a powerful testament to the enduring human desire to connect with the past, to unearth forgotten beauty, and to learn from the ingenious ways ancient civilizations shaped their world. And unlike trying to find your keys from last Tuesday, these discoveries often yield far more satisfying results. From their decline and rediscovery, the influence of the Roman villa garden did not simply vanish. Rather, its principles and aesthetics have subtly yet profoundly shaped landscapes throughout history, leading to their modern echoes resound. You might be walking through a grand formal garden in Europe, or even a meticulously planned municipal park in a city like Portland, Oregon, and unknowingly be witnessing a direct descendant of those ancient Roman designs. The impact is woven into the very fabric of garden architecture. One of the most immediate and enduring legacies is the Ashapur-style courtyard garden. This concept of an enclosed central green space surrounded by colonnaded walkways became a foundational element in many subsequent architectural styles. You see its direct influence in the monastic cloisters of medieval Europe, which provided quiet, contemplative spaces for monks, and later in the grand courtyards of Renaissance palaces. Even in modern apartment complexes or public buildings, designers often create central courtyards that, while perhaps stripped of their classical adornments, still embody that Roman idea of bringing nature into an enclosed, ordered space. Historians still argue whether the adaptation of Roman garden elements by later cultures was a conscious emulation or an independent evolution based on similar environmental and aesthetic needs. The Roman love for water features. Fountains, rills, and reflecting pools also reverberated through the ages. From the spectacular cascades of Italian Renaissance villas, like the Villa d'Este, with its hundreds of fountains, to the intricate waterworks of French Baroque gardens like Versailles, the Roman mastery of hydraulics and the aesthetic power of moving water became a continuous source of inspiration. Even a simple bird bath in a modern backyard owes a small debt to the Romans' integrated water designs. They truly set the standard for how to make water a living, breathing part of the garden experience. Furthermore, the Roman emphasis on geometric layouts and topiary heavily influenced formal garden design for centuries. The strict lines, symmetrical beds, and sculpted hedges seen in French formal gardens of the 17th century, or even the parterres of English country estates, are direct descendants of Roman principles. This idea of imposing order and artistry upon nature, of creating living sculptures, has been a recurring theme in Western garden history, even when tastes shifted towards more naturalistic styles. The desire to control and refine nature for human pleasure, while often debated, remains a powerful aesthetic impulse. Even the concept of a garden as a place for one contemplation and escape where persists. While our modern escapes might involve noise-canceling headphones and a virtual reality headset, the fundamental desire for a personal sanctuary, a quiet place to unwind and reconnect remains unchanged. Parks and botanical gardens worldwide continue to offer that crucial respite from urban life, often incorporating elements like shaded benches, meandering paths, and calming water features that echo their ancient Roman predecessors. So as you look around at the green spaces of today, especially in a city like Portland, where nature is so highly valued, remember that the simple pleasures you find there, the calm, the beauty, the escape, have roots that stretch back 2 millennia, deeply embedded in the ancient Roman love affair with their villa gardens. They truly laid the groundwork for our enduring connection to cultivated beauty. And so as the gentle twilight begins to settle over our imagined Roman villa garden, casting long, soft shadows across the perfectly manicured hedges and bringing forth the evening perfume of jasmine, it's time for our farewell to Flora. We've journeyed through sun-drenched courtyard, felt the cool splash of ancient fountains, and pondered the wisdom etched into marble busts amidst the rustling leaves. This final moment is about holding on to that sense of profound tranquility, letting the simple pleasures of this ancient world gently envelop you one last time. Remember the quiet rhythm of the water, that constant soothing murmur that defines so much of the garden soundscape, a timeless lullaby from an age long past. Recall the vibrant colors, not just the fleeting blooms of flowers, but the enduring greens of cypress and olive, the deep hues of mosaic floors, all bathed in the warm golden light of a setting sun. The air, now cooler and heavier, carries a different symphony of scents. The earthy dampness of the soil mingling with the faint sweetness of night-blooming jasmine, a subtle farewell from the garden itself. The rustle of leaves, no longer the crisp sound of midday, softens to a whisper, almost like the garden itself is sighing contentedly after another day of life. The distant cooing of doves fades into the deepening twilight, replaced by the chirping of crickets, a gentle rhythmic sound that underscores the enduring cycles of nature. You can almost feel the gentle breeze of final caress as it drifts through the peristyle, carrying with it the quiet echoes of laughter, conversation, and solitary contemplation that once filled these hallowed spaces. The simple pleasure of a Roman villa garden wasn't about grandiosity alone, though it certainly had that. It was about the profound human need for beauty, for peace, for connection to the natural world. It was about creating a sanctuary, a living work of art that nurtured the soul as much as it delighted the senses. This wasn't a fleeting trend, but a deep, abiding appreciation for the art of living well, woven into the very fabric of Roman society. As you drift away, let that feeling of calm sink deep within you. Imagine the soft earth beneath your bare feet, the cool touch of marble, the subtle perfume of ancient blossoms. This feeling, this connection to nature's enduring embrace, is what the Romans sought and what we too can still find in the quiet corners of our own lives. May the peace of this ancient garden linger with you, a gentle reminder that true serenity often lies in the simplest, most natural joys. Breathe deeply, let your muscles relax, and allow the timeless tranquility of the Roman villa garden to guide you gently into a restful sleep. Sweet dreams.